Hey everyone, welcome back to Poets Return podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Bowie, and on this lovely Thursday, March 12th, I hope you're staying safe and in Los Angeles, actually dry. It's raining here, and also very healthy. It is a little bit of chaos out there right now with the coronavirus going on, and I know it's definitely changed my schedule, my personal and business plans. I'm pretty positive it's done the same for most of you, so I do apologize about the delay in certain things being released. There have just been some obstacles that we've had to take into consideration over the last couple weeks. But I'm really excited about this week because we're releasing our first official Minisode featuring a very dear friend of mine, and these Minisodes, some of them are going to be phone conversations. Some of them actually will be conversations I've had with people at a coffee shop on the street. They're just little glimpses into writers' process, into how we view ourselves, how we view other writers, how we view what we're putting out there as a product, what we're basically doing with our craft. And this conversation is really focused predominantly on getting writing finished, not judging it too much, dealing with writing highs and lows, understanding how to interpret those highs and lows, and also knowing that sometimes even if you're super inspired, it doesn't mean that you're about to make the most beautiful piece of artwork. You're not about to write the most beautiful masterpiece, novel, play, whatever. Inspiration doesn't always equal this amazing thing, which seems like a duh, but when you're an artist and you are in that moment and you are so inspired and so focused on this new idea, it's hard to realize that this might not end up being the pie in the sky dream that I thought it was. But that's okay, because again, as writers, we don't know what it's going to be until we do it, which is why the most important thing is to do it, to write it, to finish it, and complete the process as best as you can. Because for me especially, I get so many ideas that I get inspired and I write this and then I don't finish it and I start writing this and then nothing gets finished. And that can really haunt us, I think, sometimes. So Conor and I, Conor Turoci, again, a dear friend of mine I've known for many years, he and I have actually been writing a play together for over, I'm not even going to say how many years, but a few years. He and I have been writing together for over 5 years, but this play specifically was a focus of ours later in college, that we had this idea and we really wanted to formulate it. We weren't sure how to execute it and kept working on it. And even though he is no longer geographically near me, the two of us continue to have these phone conversations, work on the play, work on the characters, the conflict, and during those conversations, we also just talk about what we're working on individually. And he writes a lot of different things. He is a poet. He's a short story writer, novelist, playwright, all the things. And it's really interesting to be able to have someone that you have grown up with writing, seeing them evolve, seeing you evolve, hearing them see how you've changed, and just continuing to collaborate but also grow separately. So these minisodes are going to be released today, tomorrow, and Saturday, and they're featuring Conor and my conversations, sort of explicated and discussed. Food for thought for you. They're very short, but please let us know what you think. There are a lot of philosophical questions brought up here about process, inspiration, objectivity as writers. So if you have any thoughts, please, direct message us at Poets Return Instagram or on Facebook, and let us know what you think, because these conversations are things we want to continue to delve into and explore, and these minisodes will be featured as conversations with writers of all different mediums, from all different backgrounds, just sort of shooting the shit and figuring out what do we think of this crazy craft that we've decided to pursue. So here's the first little part that we're going to talk about, and we really focus here on getting one sentence out, just getting one sentence out a day, one word at a time, taking it, forcing yourself to sort of drag that sentence out of you, even if it feels so belaboring, and continuing to consistently work. And, there's a quote that I have from Walter Mosley from July of 2000, and he says, if you want to be a writer, you have to write every day. The consistency, the monotony, the certainty, all vagaries and passions are covered by this daily reoccurrence. You don't go to a well once, but daily. You don't skip a child's breakfast or forget to wake up in the morning. Sleep comes to you each day, and so does the muse. Here's Conor Turoci.
I've been more consistent with writing. I may not have written more, although I think I have written more, but I've been more consistent with it than I ever have been, even though I'm way busier than I've ever been. And almost every day, I at least get a sentence down. Even if I have to drag that sentence out of myself, I get a sentence down, and it sucks, and I hate it. And half the time, whatever I'm writing, I'm just like disjointed and messy, and I'm just thinking in the back of my head, like, just fix it and rewrites, just go back later and fix it, just get this down right now, just get it down right now, get your sentence in for every day. And it sucks and I hate it, but it feels really good to like at least say, you know what, I wrote a sentence. I wrote a sentence today. It was a new thing I added to my work in progress. I got that stuff finished. I'm doing it, and it's something that, like, it's a small thing, but I hold on to it, and it makes me feel like I'm still working for my dreams, you know?
Well, and it's really about what is going to sustain you as a writer. You know what I mean? And that's going to be different things at different times. Our appetites change in life, our palates change, our process changes, and sometimes you're going to be more inspired. You're going to want to write a whole short story in a sitting if you can. And there's going to be moments when writing a word, writing a sentence, whatever it might be, can be enough because, like you said, you know you're contributing to your work. You know you're doing something. You know you're not neglecting your child. It's just sometimes we don't have. I don't know. It's just it's better to do that than to just do what I think happens to a lot of artists, which is I'm discouraged because I'm not writing as much as I think I should be, or whatever it might be, and then they put it away and they don't want to deal with it because it seems too daunting.
Exactly.
Yeah, sometimes us writers, we take ourselves a little too seriously. Don't neglect the child. But it does feel that way as a writer sometimes. It feels like you've created this thing. You don't want to leave it. I mean, just the other day, my mom came and visited and helped me redecorate and clean out my entire apartment, throw away stuff that I'd been hoarding and keeping for so long. Old scraps of writing notes that I thought, oh, this is such a good idea. The seed of this I'm going to grow this plant. I'm going to nurture this child. I'm going to make this idea grow into something one day. And sometimes you just got to let it go. Sometimes you also realize, which was something Kate Strauss actually mentioned in Owning Your Voice on episode 1, that sometimes you realize you're writing the same thing. You just keep writing the same idea and the same theme because you haven't moved on from something in your life or you haven't finished it. So that's why it's so important to finish our ideas, even if it's messy and all over the place, which this next segment Conor and I talk about is, you know, sometimes inspiration, as great as it is, again, can't always be a great thing in the end. The process is so important, but sometimes the product doesn't satisfy. You have this great idea, you think it's going to absolutely change everything, it's going to make everything make sense, revolutionary, and then you write it, you read it, and it's crap. So the next segment, Conor talks a little bit about an instance of this in his writing, when you get this character, this idea that just seems to click so well in the moment, and then in retrospect you go, how did I think that was going to work? And a lot of writers deal with this in all different forms: poetry, screenwriting, playwriting, all of, you know, we deal with this in many different ways. And Mary Gordon actually talked about this back in the late 90s. She says, it's a bad business, this writing. No marks on paper can ever measure up to the word's music in the mind, to the purity of the image before it's ambushed by language. And I just love that. No marks on paper can ever measure up to the words, music in the mind, to the purity of the image before it's ambushed by language. And that's a hard expectation as a writer that we hold ourselves up to, is hoping that whatever that inspiration was in your head is going to read. And sometimes it just doesn't.
So I had this moment several months ago. I don't remember, but I was working on one of the characters from my big saga. And I actually finished that character's whole story. I finished it. It's all done. I felt really proud of myself when I finally did it, because it's a pretty hefty piece. But earlier on in writing it, I had this big fucking flash of inspiration where I was like, oh, there's this character who had died earlier on in the story. That the main character and this character hadn't really gotten along very well, and the other character sort of blamed him for his death. I thought, oh, wouldn't it be so cool if this character was a ghost and followed the main character around, and it could be this symbol of his past haunting him, sort of thing, a super big. So I wrote 10 pages with that in mind, and with the ghost following him around and having conversations with him and shit. And a week later, I came back to it and I read it and I was like, oh, this is awful.
Oh no!
This ruined everything. So I had to I had to go and just cross out everything related to the ghost.
Oh, no, dude.
But it was at least like, okay, I did it. I did it. I was inspired.
Right.
I flexed those muscles. Turns out I didn't really like it that much, but at least I tried it, you know? So, like, even sometimes being super inspired isn't exactly the best thing.
In this last little part of our first Minisode with Conor, we talk about the highs and lows of being a writer and how it's not only about the brooding moments when you're in that low or you're thinking I suck or I'm never going to be successful. There's also those monumental highs where you really believe I could do this, I could change things, I could make my mark, I could tell this story, I could help some person, whatever the objective might be, and how intrinsically important that is to the passion and the continued inspiration and process of writing, but how it can also be detrimental sometimes because of the disappointments and the downfalls. And just how finding the balance in anything in life is very difficult, and especially in art when you're trying to share it. It's such a subjective thing. Putting it in a world and hoping to remain objective is almost laughable, really, but it's what we do. It's what we have to do. And so here in this last little bit, Conor and I kind of segue into laughing at ourselves openly at these moments where you really profoundly believe, like, I am going to be the next so-and-so, and then moments where you go, I hope I never write another word again. But again, those highs and lows are still crucial to the process of a writer. Finding the balance is so important and so difficult. But writers struggle with this and excel in this field in all different ways and in all different fashions. But a quote from William Saroyan back from 1981 is, he says, "How do you write? You write, man, you write. That's how. And you do it the way the old English walnut tree puts forth leaf and fruit every year by the thousands. If you practice an art faithfully, it will make you wise, and most writers can use a little wising up." So I love that. But yeah, so here's Conor with the last little bit of us talking about those highs and lows and ending with this idea of just, you know what? Just finish it. You won't know what you have until you just finish it.
And they're like, oh, this is going to be amazing. We're going to win so many awards.
We're going to win so many awards. I'm going to win a major award. Yeah, no, dude,
Some Broadway producer is going to see this and pick it up.
Oh, the dreams and the just pie in the sky, like, this is, whatever. And I still do that with productions, and I'd like to think that I've gotten better at knowing when it's actually worth my effort, time, and belief. But, I mean, it's the same thing. It's like that's another side of the coin as artists. As much as we all like to act, like we're these brooding, cynical, sarcastic creatures, I think the reason that our lows go like that is because our highs are so high. Our hope, our belief, we get so excited. We really think like this is going to change the world. This is going to be the thing that reignites the passion of the people. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but I think it's something
you have to have that.
Absolutely. But it's like you have to keep track of that, just like you have to keep track of the lows. It's like I have to hold myself accountable and be like, oh, I'm being really depressive right now about everything. I think my writing sucks. I think I should never write another word again and just have someone like dictate for me in life. And then there's the moments where I'm like, I will be the person that is like the next Chekhov, and I will change everyone.
You know what gets me through those lows? There's one thought that I always come back to whenever I'm in those, like, why am I fucking right? This is the first novel. Who the fuck do I think I am trying to reach fucking Robert Heinlein level, right? Whenever I have those lows, I just remember, like, look, sometimes you do feel like this is going to be amazing, and that's fucking great, and you work on it so hard, and you're so inspired, and you're so excited. Sometimes you're not. The thought that comes in my head when I'm in those lows and I don't want to work on it anymore and I want to just throw it in the trash and go, I'll never be a writer. Fuck this. I remember, look, your work may or may not light the world on fire. Realistically, it might not. But you'll never know if you don't finish it. So just finish it.
This audio production is copyright 2019 by the Poets Return podcast, all rights reserved. The copyrights for each story are held by the respective authors. No duplication or reproduction of this audio program is permitted without the written consent of Melissa Bowie.